Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to moderate. Women's empowerment sessions such as this is truly beneficial to our own personal development as women and as leaders and catalysts in our community. So big shout out to them and thank you for all that you ladies do to build a better community. I am going to start off by introducing our three panelists that we have this morning. And we're going to ask them a series of 3 questions. And then we're going to take questions from all of you ladies in our audience. And I'll have you put the questions in the chat box. 3 amazing, resilient panelists who truly do exhibit women who are leading in our community today. So we're excited to hear from them and get their knowledge and insight among leadership in their path and their journey in that regard. So first up, we have Miss Sharon McGlone. She is a wife, mother of 4, retired educator, and a current member of the League of Women Voters here in Southampton Roads. You may have heard some of Sharon's remarkable stories before, as she's frequently featured at local events, reflecting on her experience as one of 6 African-American young girls who were integrated in the Spotsylvania County School District in 1963. That's pretty incredible. Sharon reflects on this period of her life, recently stating, "Remembering that period of my life always resurrects feelings of loss, unrealistic expectations, and rejection. I remind my 9-year-old self that it's okay to be me, and I also accept that I am the change that I want to see in the world." And I absolutely love that motto because it's never losing hope. So I love that. I think that's a wonderful a motto to preach by and to live by 100%. So thank you so much, Sharon, for being with us. Next up, we have Rakita Taylor. And there she is. Rakita, welcome. She is the president and founder of Sisters Healing Sisters Incorporated, a nonprofit. And as a Virginia Beach native, she is also a wife and a mother and a community leader. She's earned an associate's degree in business administration at Talwater Community College in 2016, whoop, whoop, and is currently pursuing a bachelor's of social work at Norfolk State University. Fantastic. She started the Sisters Healing Sisters organization in October of 2018, and her goal was to empower and educate and elevate women from all walks of life through different resources, workshops, outreach outlets. Since forming the organization, she has fed thousands of people in Hampton Roads area, held numerous free educational workshops on issues that are relevant to community needs, and also started a closet of free clothing for people who are in need to shop for free. Her heart is for sure in the community, and she has been recognized as an ACHI Community Leader of the Year in 2019. And in addition, she was most recently recognized by Ellen DeGeneres, which is awesome, in October of 2020. That is fantastic. And she plans to open a transitional home for women in the near future. And I think this transitional home is something that is very, very much needed in the community. And I'm sure you all have heard of the term Alice. And, I was one of those women. And, it's so expensive to find affordable housing in certain cities in Hampton Roads. And you know what, if you're a woman out there on your own and you're trying to work multiple jobs to be able to pay your bills, your rent, food, it adds up. And so I think that it would be such a tremendous resource in the community that is needed. So kudos to you. And last but not least, we have Miss Jennifer Valentine. Come on down. Jennifer is going into her 7th year of teaching sociology at Talwater Community College, Virginia Beach campus. Congratulations, exciting. And prior to teaching in Virginia Beach, she was an adjunct at the Chesapeake and Portsmouth campus. I love that you've been all over the campuses. That's a perk of being a TCC adjunct for sure. I remember those days. And when she's not adjunct teaching for us here at the college, she works part-time at the district office in Norfolk with the Office of Grants and Sponsored Programs, helping our city. And
that's what I used to do. I don't do that anymore. Now
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Used to. And she has a Bachelor of Arts in English Literature from Virginia Wesleyan College, where she was the editor-in-chief for the school paper. And she also earned a Master's of Science in Psychology from Virginia Commonwealth University, VCU.
Sociology. Sorry.
Did I say psychology? I'm sorry. Sociology. She's a sociology instructor, sociology, MS in sociology. And while at VCU, she worked as a research assistant for the Clark Hill Institute for Positive Young Development. Her research duties included collecting and analyzing qualitative data, which is interviews, and she interviewed teens that were living in Richmond public housing areas. Many of her current and former students credit her engaging and personable teaching styles as the reason why they're interested in current events, and just being, she's knowledgeable in her local communities and understanding the various perspectives on all of our social issues. And that's always wonderful when you can incorporate those into your classes when it comes to adult learning, because that's how you really get them to connect. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. So let's start with Miss Sharon McGlone. Share with us in our group of ladies today that aha moment or a certain or particular situation that stands out in your mind most that you experienced that caused you to say to yourself, I need to take action. I need to do something here. I need to stand up on a particular issue within your community.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. First of all, it's such an honor to share the screens with women who are doing so many powerful things in this community. So thank you. I'm so honored to be a part of this. As you talked about a little bit, I learned that the change had to start with me, because I was brought up knowing that my parents decided that the change was needed, and they started with me as a 9-year-old child saying, this is what we need to do to desegregate the schools. So as an adult, didn't understand it back then, but as an adult, I had that moment when I knew that people had to sacrifice and advocate for equality. And it all began with just one action. One action is all it took. We're acting today, but one action is what it took, because it makes a difference. So when I attended my first League of Women Voters meeting, I found like-minded people there. I found women and men who wanted to make a difference, who wanted to actively participate in the government. They wanted to increase education and understanding and influence public policy. So that's when my aha moment was, one action can make a difference. And I do that through the League of Women Voters, where I attend their conference and webinars and get educated of what's happening here, and not only local, state, but national.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ms. McGlone. And my big takeaway from that is one action is what it takes. I absolutely love it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Rickkita.
Good morning, everyone. My aha moment actually happened while I was attending TCC. When I started TCC back in January of 2013, I found myself as a single mom. I had just became unemployed and had little to no resources. So at that moment, when I was going through all of these things, I felt like I had no one. So I decided to create an organization that would help women like and not like myself heal and prosper. All of the resources that I needed while going through my situation, such as financial, food, shelter, all of that, I incorporated that into the organization. Once I understood that it takes a village, it's not just about me and the tests that I'm going through, that it takes a village, and I use those tests to help others. And that was my aha moment. It happened right there at TCC in the Women's Center.
Oh, I love that. Okay, the Women's Center, you even know exactly where you were at.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It takes a village. And I say that quite often. I think it's one of my main hashtags, and it certainly does. We need each other in more ways than one. And it's amazing what just supporting another woman or supporting someone can do for them. It's life-changing. And Jennifer.
So part of my professional experience and my academic experience is I've spent my entire life at a college, in a college environment. So I went to college, I went to grad school, and then I ended up being hired by a college, and then I ended up teaching in the classroom. So for a while, a lot of my understanding of issues and problems was very theoretical and academic, studying it, examining it, and then teaching it. And then at some point, for me, my aha moment was, as I'm part educator, but part sociologist, which is you study society, you're aware of the issues, but then what do you do with it? Like, talk about it, but then be about it. So once you understand the source of social problems, can you then begin contributing towards solutions? So I think sometimes social problems can seem so overwhelming, and it's like, gosh, there's poverty and there's racism and there's sexism and there's homophobia and there's, all of Asian hate, Islamophobia, like what, how can we approach these issues? And so my aha moment as part educator, part sociologist happened in the classroom, which is, where do I have power to make change? So perhaps I can't address every social issue in my community, but what can I do? And in this context, my community is my classroom. So with my students and preparing them to take their roles in the community as they, like Rickkita, graduate and go on and make a difference. So this is not quite a social issue, but the aha moment I thought of was economic inequality is a really big issue. And the community college exists to make education accessible for everybody so that cost isn't a barrier to achieving a credential and contributing to businesses or starting businesses in a community. So what I did is started an effort for myself, and then it's developed in my department to adopt open educational resources. So in other words, in college talk, that's free textbooks, free learning materials, so that students wouldn't have to worry about spending money on a textbook that could cost hundreds of dollars. There's a push all across the nation to make learning resources free. And so I thought, that's something I can do. And so if poverty, if wealth inequality is a big issue, like, that seems like a big lift to try to address it, do what you can where you can. And for me, I have power in my classroom. I get to decide what we talk about and how we approach it. So let me use that power to address economic inequality at a really micro level. And so for me, it was, let's ditch the textbook, let's ditch tradition. And who says learning has to be bound in a book in that way? What are some other ways to explore it? And been on that journey for a few years now.
Thank you, Jennifer. Learning does not have to be bound in a book. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And I think, as someone in the classroom, such as yourself, who is an instructor, you're shaping adult minds and bettering them and equipping them with tools and knowledge beyond the book, beyond the textbook, to go out into their own communities. So that's wonderful. I love that. Okay. Our next question, Sharon, in your particular area, what is the most pressing, concerning community issue that people need to be aware of? And how is your organization addressing it? How are you addressing it?
As a member of the league, I want to, we are nonpartisan, but a political organization, which means we want to make sure that people have the education to act, to make those actions that will make a difference in our community. So, for this past year, of course, it's been voter services. We have done whatever it's taken to register voters and provide the information that they need across this whole state, but also giving information in other states. We provide a website. We set up a website called Vote 11 that gives information for all candidates here in the state of Virginia. So people can look in their local areas and see, what is, who's running and what are they doing? Because again, your actions start right where we are, right here in our community. So we need to know who's running for Commonwealth Attorney as much as we need to know who's running for school board, as much as we need to know who's running for president. So the League of Women Voters provide that information. We are there providing debates and forums that we have been noticed. We've been noted that we give fair debates and we research issues. We give civic education to high school students and new citizens and non-voters. And this past year, because of the election, our local league, we sent over 5,000 postcards that were personally written out. Now think about it. When you get something from someone who has handwritten something, you look at it and you know how important it is. We did that to Georgia and Louisiana, Mississippi, all of those states that we knew people needed that extra information to continue to vote. But not only is voting important, because we know here in our area, we have lots of other issues. So we are also active with the legislative community table of Hampton Roads. Now that's a collaboration between nonpartisan, nonprofits, organizations that get together and collaborate and decide, what are we doing in Hampton Roads? What is it we can focus on? So some of the things that collaboration focuses on is criminal justice reform, which we've seen great stuff happening in our state this year for that. Civil rights, dismantling systematic racism, of course, our voting access, environmental justice, health disparities, and of course, what we're looking at right now is our poverty economic justice. Those organizations are from the AARP all the way down to the Virginia for Alternatives to the Death Penalty, with over 20 agencies that are involved with that collaboration. So those are some of the things right now that we are working on here in the Hampton Roads area.
Wow, that's not a small list. That's amazing. Wow, what work and passion that goes into that. Rickkita.
I would say the biggest opportunity that we have right now is the lack of knowledge of the resources that are available to the community. That's something that is very important. That's the whole reason why the organization started. So what we do as a organization is we make sure that we educate all of our clients on all of the resources that are available, whether that be through the website, through social media, or also holding those free educational workshops. Of course, things are a little harder because of, COVID, but before that, we were meeting bi-monthly and just making sure that anybody in the community that is in need is available and aware of the resources that we have available. So that's our biggest opportunity.
Right. And how, just a follow up, how would someone find out information about what resources you offer?
Directly on our website, which is sistershealingsistersinc.org. And then we're on all social media, Facebook, Instagram. So it's all there.
And Sharon, the same for your organization and the work that you all are doing. How would someone get involved or help write handwritten notes for you all?
Yes, League of Women Voters is an organization that's all over our country and our territories. But if you Google League of Women Voters, South Hampton Roads, you'll get to our page right here in the Hampton Roads area. And it gives you all the information about how to learn more about what's impacting us.
Wonderful, thank you. And Jada has put the links to both of those organizations in your chat box, so be sure to check those out. And Jennifer, what would you think is most pressing?
So one of the benefits and one of the challenges of sociology is that it's such a broad discipline. So it's the study of society and social interaction. So that includes social institutions like education, school systems, politics, religion, media, criminal justice, culture, gender, sex, race, ethnicity. These are huge topics, and each of them, in some way, you can identify problems. So a criticism of sociology is that we're quick to identify problems, and a follow-up is then what to do about it, what solution. So what we do and what I hear Rickkita and Sharon are doing is educating on issues, informing the public on issues as one way of building awareness, because once someone sees something, it's hard to unsee it. Once we make things visible, it's hard to now miss it. And I can't tell you how many students say, I can't go to the store, I can't watch TV anymore without seeing gender, race, and culture and all of these things. So once I think a way that me and a few other colleagues in the discipline here at TCC are using sociology, it's to not only inform our students, but also going out into the community and partnering with organizations to bridge connections between the community and the college. So I'm thinking of Tiffany Sledge is at Portsmouth, Rebecca Vonderhaar is at Portsmouth, Amy Rudicelli is at Virginia Beach. All are sociologists who take what we know how to do, which is study society and talk about it, including its issues and problems. And we go out into the community to see, groups like Rickkita and Sharon, what are y'all doing to solve these issues? And how can we use our skill sets to collaborate, to work together? Because someone earlier said it's a village approach. These problems can't be fixed by one of us. It really is building that awareness and collectively working together, offering what we can to the solution. So whether that's I'm good at social media, so I'll keep, sharing with my friends and network, or I'm good at writing letters to the editor. I know how to frame and tell a story, or I'm really passionate about this topic and that passion will translate. What I think specifically myself and colleagues are doing in Hampton Roads is informing our students about issues, and then also trying to reach into the community to see who's working on these issues and how can we bring all of that together, the classroom and the community. And hopefully students can find their way even beyond the semester into action.
So you're not just educating on the sociology part, but you're also connecting our students, TCC students, to those resources that Sharon and Rakita have in the community, which is amazing. That's above and beyond. And I think that's a huge piece of that sociology component, correct me if I'm wrong, is bridging those partnerships and those relationships that you also study in addition.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, ladies, and our last question is, in your experience, what are the real benefits, in your opinion, of civil engagement? So many people, especially women that get caught up in the she session, may feel like they cannot help other people or other women at the time when their own lives may be a little off course or off track. What do you think, Sharon?
These are great questions to just reflect on and think about. And one of the things I was thinking about, because we all as women, but also different times in our life just dictates sometime of where we are. And I remember when I was younger and I had 4 children and a military spouse, my knowledge at that time had to come from just reading the newspaper every day to find out what was going on. Sometimes it was no more than reading the school newsletters to see what was happening in the schools, because that's where most of my life was. The local issues were, of course, the most important issues for me, because that's where I was living, that's where my involvement was, with the busing and equality and equity for quality education. So, of course, joining the PTA, attending school board meetings, that's when you actually had to go there with maybe a child in tow to find out what is happening. So after that, and things got a little bit easier, and you get to be involved in other things, I realized that the Civic League was a great way to get involved in what is happening right now next to me. The city council meetings, they, at least if I couldn't attend them, I could at least read about them in the newspaper. School board meetings, our churches can be very active in our communities, giving that information to us. I put down book clubs. Now, book clubs are not just for drinking wine and talking about that book, because sometimes we even get to read those books that gives us the history. It gives us involvement. It gives us the education that we need to make those decisions. So when I say all actions matter, it does, because with the League of Women Voters, I have been educated and informed with just their meetings, with different webinars, to be able then to know how to contact my legislatures, how to contact my city council members, how to, at another time, travel to Richmond and meet with those people. That may not be for everyone at certain times of their life, but remember, any action makes a reaction. And that's what I encourage us as women, because we are people who like to be active. And what little bit you do is what makes the difference.
Thank you. Rickkita?
I have to agree 100% with Sharon. Civil engagement is so important, especially with the population that our organization serves. I think that it's very important that one, our story, in particular mine, gets shared with the people we interact with. Because as you said, some people feel as if they cannot help because they might be going through something themselves. So if they see another person that's doing it, then that will in turn make them want to do more as well. So civil engagement is important. We attend as many community events as we can, just to get out there, get our name out, get our resources out there that we have, and just make sure that everyone knows that, you know, as I said in the beginning, that it takes a village, but we can do this together. So I was saying, very important.
Thank you. Jennifer.
So I hope this is okay to share, because I don't mean to be partisan about it, but my dad is like 74, 75 years old. So he grew up at a time with, you know, civil rights and women's rights, and he's retired and he's in a different stage in his life. And for the past year, maybe a year and a half, he keeps saying it's the year of the woman. It's the year of, like, it's time for women to take control because men have been doing it and we should try something else. So he actually gifted me this book. And it's by Stacy Abrams, titled Minority Leader: How to Lead from the Outside and Make Real Change. So I recommend this book in context of our conversation. And she's not partisan in her approach, but she does describe being an African-American woman in the South running for a position of power. And if you're someone who isn't culturally or socially awarded with advantages, the benefit of the doubt, with as women, if our beliefs or voices or experiences are respected, if you have to go out of your way to prove yourself, and if you're not born into a network that has financial or economic resources to support a campaign, what do you do? How do you lead from the outside? So she gives her personal experience, and she also gives advice, and some of it is to work your way in. So, you know, joining, as Sharon has shared, so being aware of activities, civic activities, and engaging. So showing up and putting your body in the room, putting your face in the room. For those who don't want to go to city council, and also because of COVID are unable to, if you are on Facebook, you can, you know, search City of Norfolk government, City of Virginia Beach government, and they stream their city council meetings live weekly. School board meetings are streamed on Facebook. So that's one way. I keep mine up in the background because I don't want to watch that for an hour or more, but just to kind of hear what's going on. So as one resource for this question, I wanted to share this book because I've benefited a lot from it. A lot of leadership books are written by culturally recognized leaders, right? Racially and by gender, it's men who are saying how to lead. So she's saying, well, some of that advice translates, but some of it doesn't always work if you're in a minority position. Secondly, when you think of civic or civil engagement, there's multiple avenues to approach this. So sometimes it's voting. That's one political action, but politics is power. And one way of organizing power is through the vote. But another way of organizing power is organizing community marches, protests, making people aware, informing the public. Volunteering is civic engagement. So when you give your time and your talent and your energy to an issue, so that a nonprofit like Rickkita, I don't know if you're a nonprofit, but an organization like Rickkita doesn't have to pay for it. If resources are already limited, how can I still engage? I'll volunteer my time and put bodies and resources donated so that efforts that are working towards benefiting the most vulnerable folks in our community, or efforts that are pushing democracy, get the support that they need. So it doesn't all, like, if you're like, oh, can I engage? Yes, there is some place for you. It may be at a protest. It may be voting. It may be handing out literature. It could be volunteering. It could be in your professional role. One way to civically engage is to be present and be ethical and to show up. So if you're a teacher, if you're an educator, how can I promote engagement? Let me look at my curriculum. What information am I passing on to my students in the classroom? How diverse is this curriculum? Do I showcase women or people of color or people from different backgrounds as experts in the field? Do I challenge stereotypes that reinforce the status quo? So you may work in services, you may work part-time at the mall, you could be you're at TCC perhaps, preparing for a future career. Even in your professional role, you can engage civically within the bounds of your HR policy, but treating your clients and your customers and your students humanely and modeling for them a good citizen can go a long way and planting a seed in someone who will then take that model and repeat it themselves. They see someone living well and they think, maybe I can try that too. So there's all sorts of ways. If it feels inaccessible, you'd be surprised at how easy it is. There's so many different ways to engage in preserving democracy and freedom and justice in our country.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm curious, who for each of you is a female leader, a female role model that you really see as a woman who is leading the charge or leading change? It can be someone of the past, present, doesn't have to be necessarily in your own community, just in general. Who stands out to you that you're like, wow, that person, what they're doing, what that woman's doing as a blazer, as a changer? Sharon.
So many women, but I think because I just read about her again, Michelle Obama, I just love the way she is continuing to go through the seasons of her life. She started, with the education, and then of course she went into a very high power, school and law school and the whole bit. And then, as she writes about in her book, that wasn't where she expected to be, was in the White House as the first lady. But when we saw her with grace and style go through there, knowing the demands that were put on her at that time, and now we see her still educating through her passion about healthy eating and reaching families about that, even if in some of our places we know that's difficult with food deserts. So I just love the way she has demonstrated to women, even though she recognized that she had some privilege as far as having a two-parent home and parents who were there to support her. There still was a struggle because of who she was. But she kind of has come through these seasons as young women making decisions about being a wife and a mother. And now as she's gone through that season, still being able to educate and be out there in the front. So lots of other women, but she sticks in my mind.
And that kind of is what Rickkita said about sharing your story, isn't it? If women just share their story on how they relate or how they may not, but, it could relate to someone else or impact someone else with that education. Thank you. Rickkita.
I would have to say Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts. She used her story and turned it into a platform. She inspired me so much along my journey. Her journey is similar to mine, just a woman that persevered and overcame. And now she uses her platform to help others, whether it be through the community grants, whether it be through holding the free conferences to empower and educate women. She's just a role model and just an inspiration for me.
And she's right here in your community, correct?
Yes. No. She is, I believe she's in California.
Okay, I was like, where exactly is she? Okay, wonderful. And Jennifer, what about yourself?
I mean, at this point, it's my girl, Stacy Abrams.
I love that.
I'm so excited about this. I've been on Etsy looking at posters to purchase to put up in my, a wall of influence and inspiration of
love it.
Who have contributed to culture, and she is high on my list. And I appreciate her because, Michelle Obama and Sarah Jakes Roberts are their wives, they're women, they're professional. the story of balancing all the roles that women have to play. And to be honest, the balance that aren't demanded of men, to be present at the home, present emotionally, and, you know, to really give it all professionally. Work and social change and being a woman aren't always easily compatible. So there's something about women where there's grit, I feel like, in our leadership, where we push back past all the other demands and do it as best as we can, some days better than others, showing up as wives and as mothers, and then also registering people to vote, and also making sure the community is aware, like all these other things on top of
directions.
the incredible tasks of being present in our family. So Stacy Abrams is not a wife or a mother, but she does describe, again, the challenges of really wanting something, the disappointment of losing it, and then the resilience to keep going. Like if you're following some of the political problems in Georgia and voter restrictions happening and making it harder for people, Black people in particular, to vote in Georgia, here you have a woman that, in spite of already having faced voter suppression, losing a race for the governor, didn't turn her back and say, well, you should have voted for me, y'all deal with it. She's still on the ground, giving her time and organizing resources to push for change. So when to me, she's a model of when you really are committed to change, like really being about it. Sometimes you win it and sometimes you don't. And some change, the people who came before us didn't live to see it happen, but we reap the benefits of it. So giving it all anyway and hoping, like Sharon, right? At her 9-year-old self paved the way for us I'm in a school without even thinking about integration. It was already set for me. So, hey, pushing it forward.
Pave the way for future generations. Dr. Ivory asked, when it's all said and done, what would you like your legacy to look like? What does that mean to you?
I think for me, education is such a value. I hope that my legacy will be the story of people who were inspired. I don't know that I need a building or like something tangible, but that the value towards equity and the value towards doing right by people and reading and learning and sharing what you know and then using what you know, that people who perhaps didn't see themselves or didn't think of themselves in a way where they could be of influence, can see that anywhere they are, you can do something. Where you are, wherever you are, you can do something. And I hope that, particularly the students who pass through my classroom leave feeling more capable of doing what they can, where they can.
Okay. Sharon or Rickkita, do you want to mention anything for that one?
Yes, I want to leave a legacy of inspiration for others to do the same thing that I'm doing, which is making a village, helping each other, leaving a sisterhood, leaning on each other, and just using the resources that they have to help one another. So when I leave, I just want to make sure that everybody is inspired.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe I'm closer to making my legacy be out there than the rest of you are. But as a retired educator, yes, education is very dear to my heart, because I think to be informed is everybody's job to do that. So my legacy would be to inform, but also to be compassionate and respectful of other views. I think we've seen this year, and we've seen this, in the past, where we can still be compassionate toward people and maybe see things in a different way. So I want to have that legacy. I always look at the other side. Whenever there is a critique, I think I want to have compassion to where that's coming from, and then to inform and educate on what the facts are, what is really happening in the world. So my legacy would be of compassion and education.
Sarah Hare wants to know, a lot of women struggle with perfection, comparison, and doubt. And this can influence if we apply for upper level positions, lead from the front, or even lifting our voices at a table of peers. What advice would you give your fellow sisters on believing in themselves and reaching beyond those limiting beliefs?
I would say that everything that you need is already inside of you. Be confident. Just believe in yourself. Confidence is one thing that is going to make you get to that next level. Knowing that you already have everything that you need inside of you, and letting go of any fear that you have and pushing forward is going to help you reach your goals. So I just think that being confident.
That's great.
I think, agreeing with you, Rickkita, having that confidence, but also having that village. We are not by ourselves. We are social beings. And as women, we tend to like that. That's why we get together and we have clubs and we go to the playground with our kids when they're young and we go have coffee and a whole bit. So as we move into other positions, sometimes I think that's kind of left out. And so I want to encourage to use that network, and sounds so sterile, but use your community. And that may be a group of people that's outside of where you are right now, but using other women, using that network that you have of sisterhood that comes usually so easy for us sometimes, using that for your encouragement, using that for your self-confidence, and recognizing that you have those rungs of that ladder. You have other people who've gotten there, and all you have to do is continue stepping in front of them.
I think the only thing to add would be resolve. So, Sarah, you're saying doubt to apply for a position. So resolve to apply and see what happens. And then if you are hired or promoted to a position of power or higher power, and then feel maybe the microaggressions, or feeling like my ideas don't carry as much weight, or I'm not feeling respected. And those, if someone's in a minority status, sometimes it's hard to articulate it, but you feel it, where you're like, and you're kind of like, I don't know how to move past this. So sometimes, to Sarah's question, the reality is environments can be limiting. Like if you feel limited, it's because there's some external reason for that. And sometimes it's out of our individual control to change it. So what can I control? Resolve to persist anyway, and to recognize this is the worst, and I feel perhaps limited because there are actual limiting factors around me, but resolve to stay and do what you can anyway. And for some people, it may mean stay until you have enough experience to then leave and start something of your own. And if an environment is not changing to your benefit, create a different environment. And to Sharon's point, leaning on creating a network of women. So, who can share, again, I don't know her, but I've benefited so much from her telling what she's done, because I identify with being a leader from the outside. So without even her knowing that I'm reading this, it's to see how someone else like me is handling it. And it's incredible to think, me too, like I'm reading this and, I know what you're saying. And even that, nothing has changed except I feel validated. And that's enough to go another day. So, building that network. If you don't know women, where to begin, start with books. So reading the story of women, maybe you don't have the benefit right now of actually connecting to a human woman in real life, but you can read the story of women who are doing what you want to do. Watch the TED Talks of women who are in places where women usually aren't, and learn from them and see them as models and as inspirations, and just resolve that some days, those limiting beliefs can be real, because there's all sorts of limitations in the culture and in practices. So, resolve to stay put anyway and not let it push you off your path.
Thank you, Jennifer. And Chanel just typed in the chat box, I need a group of women that I can relate to and have the same mindset of growth. And it's like-mindedness. It's surrounding yourself, with those who are like-minded or in your boat, feeling the same way, because you could be a resource to each other just by sharing that story or sharing your story with someone else around you.
Amanda, if I must say, and everybody, what you all are just saying, is so phenomenal. And then two, women need to know that we're here for them, to support them. And if you're going through stuff, you don't have to go through it alone. Don't isolate yourself. We know sometimes women are hesitant to, can I really trust them with my stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Do I really want to share it? Will they just stay here within our circle or our group, or will they talk about it? And one thing I tell with my students in human services, I say, when you have a classmate that shares, when they self-disclose something, that may be molestation or something like that in an early age, I commend them, because they don't know us from Adam, and we're in the classroom 3 to 4 months. So they have to feel safe and comfortable enough. You can go home and say, wow, I admire my classmates because they share personal stuff today, and I'm just in awe. You don't need to go home and name, well, Jennifer, she shared. No. And, a lot of times that trust factor comes into play. But women need to know we're here for each other. Sometimes people have on that false face, that facade, like their life is perfectly 100%. Everything is peachy keen, hunky dory, when it's not. And know that we're here for them. That shoulder is okay to cry, whatever this and that. And I think that's what we as women need a lot of time, to let our sisters know we're all here together. But we're here for you. Stop laughing, Rickkita. We're here for you. Like that song, Count on Me, Whitney Houston and CeCe Winans. I love that. So women on this call, remember those things and share with anybody outside of this Zoom get together here. So that's all I wanted to say.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Ivory. And I definitely second everything she just said. This group, this women's workshop right now is a tool, as a resource. I'm sure Jada would be happy to get you the list of attendees. The session is also being recorded. And, look ladies up, have a conversation, share your story, make these ladies a part of that circle to support one another.
You can just meet over Sharon's house for that glass of vino, tea, coffee, milk, whatever.
I love that.
Come with your vaccine card, because I had my shot.
She's going to be checking in at the door.
First one Monday. Right.
Some of the major quotes that stand out from each of our panelists this morning: share your story. Any action makes a reaction. It takes a village. Not talk about, but be about. One action is all it takes. Start with books. We can do this together. And work your way in. Activities, civic activities, get involved, work your way in. Those were some of the really most powerful quotes that our 3 panelists have shared with us this morning. And I thank them for their time, for sharing their insight and knowledge into leadership and being a catalyst for change and an example for other women around us, and sharing their stories. So thank you, ladies. If anybody else has any final questions, please put them in the chat box. And if we don't get to it, or someone sends a question later, I'm sure Jada would be happy to get the answer to those questions for you. So again, thank all of you for being with us this morning, all of our fabulous lady participants, and of course to our panelists. Thank you all.
Thank you.